Title: My wife's lover attacked me after I discovered their affair. Now he's paying for it in prison. I never thought I'd be the kind of man to find myself face to face with betrayal. But life has a way of proving you wrong at the worst possible moments. My name is Daniel, I'm 37, and until a few months ago I believed my marriage was unshakable. My wife, Melissa, and I had been together for nearly a decade. We had routines, inside jokes, and a rhythm that made me think we were solid. I trusted her with everything. Maybe that's why the truth cut so deep when I discovered it. It started small. Changes I couldn't ignore even though I wanted to. Melissa became guarded with her phone. She worked late more often, even though her job as a marketing manager rarely required long hours. And her laughter, the kind I used to hear echo through our home, was suddenly reserved for texts she never let me see. I tried to brush it off, telling myself I was being paranoid. But when the gut screams at you, you can't ignore it forever. The confirmation came one night when she said she was meeting coworkers for a drink. Something in her tone sounded rehearsed. I waited until she left, then followed at a distance. I wish I hadn't, because what I saw shattered me. There she was, my wife, leaning in too close to a man I didn't recognize at first. His hand brushed her back. They kissed like they had been doing it for months. My chest went hollow. I didn't storm in. Instead, I stood outside the bar for almost 20 minutes, forcing myself to breathe. His name was Ryan, I would later learn, a so-called friend from her gym. The rage inside me boiled, but a strange calm settled in. If I confronted them right there, I'd lose control. So I waited. But Ryan didn't just want Melissa. No. When I finally confronted her at home days later, when the lies collapsed under the weight of undeniable proof, he showed up. Not to apologize, not to explain, but to attack me. That's when everything changed. The night Ryan came to my house is etched in my memory like scars on stone. Melissa had just admitted the affair, her face pale and eyes red, but before I could even process her words, there was pounding on the door. I opened it to find him, Ryan, broad-shouldered, drunk, and seething like he had any right to be angry at me. "You ruined everything," he spat, his breath heavy with alcohol. Before I could respond, he shoved me hard against the doorframe. Melissa screamed. My instincts kicked in, the old self-defense training I hadn't used in years rushing back. He swung at me, a wild punch that grazed my cheek. The sting snapped me into focus. I wasn't going to let this man, the man who betrayed my home, walk over me. We grappled in the hallway, the crash of furniture filling the air. Melissa was crying, begging us to stop, but Ryan didn't care. He wanted to dominate me, to prove I was weak, the way he must have whispered to her behind my back. But I wasn't weak. I managed to pin him down, my forearm pressing into his chest, his eyes blazing with fury. For a second, I thought about ending it right there. Instead, I pulled away, breathing hard. "Leave my house. Now." But Ryan wasn't finished. He lunged at me again, this time grabbing a glass vase from the table and smashing it against my arm. Pain shot through me, blood running warm down my sleeve. That was his mistake. By the time the police arrived, thanks to a neighbor who heard the chaos, Ryan was the one lying on the floor, groaning in defeat. Melissa sat frozen on the couch, staring at the wreckage of the life she'd so carelessly destroyed. The officers separated us, took statements, and when they saw my injuries and the weapon he used, they didn't hesitate. Ryan was cuffed, furious, shouting that I had set him up. But the truth was clear, and the evidence was all over my broken arm and shattered living room. That night was the end of my marriage, but it was also the beginning of Ryan's downfall. Ryan's arrest was only the start. In the weeks that followed, the reality of what had happened sank in like a heavy weight I couldn't shake. My arm was in a cast, my house bore scars from the fight, and my heart felt like it had been carved out. Melissa tried to reach out, leaving messages, begging to talk. But what was left to say? She hadn't just betrayed me. She had stood silent while her lover attacked me in my own home. That silence spoke louder than any apology ever could. The case against Ryan moved quickly. Assault with a deadly weapon, trespassing, property damage, the list stacked high. His arrogance in court didn't help him either. He stood there sneering, acting like I was the villain for exposing what he and Melissa had been hiding. But the jury didn't buy his performance. They saw the photos of my injuries, heard the recording from the neighbor's 911 call, and watched Melissa squirm on the stand as she admitted Ryan had forced his way inside. When the verdict came back, guilty, there was no satisfaction on Ryan's face, only rage. He was sentenced to serve time in prison, and suddenly the man who thought he could steal my wife and destroy me was the one shackled in chains. That moment wasn't about revenge for me. It was about justice. Finally, he couldn't hurt me anymore. Melissa tried one last time after the sentencing, standing outside the courthouse with tears streaming down her face. "Daniel, please, we can fix this." I looked at her, really looked, and saw someone I no longer recognized. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I simply said, "No, Melissa. You chose this. Now you live with it." Then I walked away. It's strange. Betrayal doesn't just break you, it rebuilds you. I've learned that trust is not something to give blindly, and strength is not measured in how hard you can hit back, but in how you rise after being knocked down. Ryan is paying for his choices in prison. Melissa is paying for hers in loneliness. And me? I'm free. Bruised, yes, but free, and finally ready to start over.